I'm Tony Sklar with bnetTV. We are here at Mobile World Congress for 2013 in Barcelona. I am speaking with Mr. Lyn Cantor from Tecktronix. How are you today, sir?
I'm great. Thanks for having some time for me.
Hey, listen, thank you for making time for us. But better yet, thanks for making time for the bnetTV viewers who are about to learn what Tecktronix is.
Very good. So Tecktronix Communications is what we refer to as a telecom intelligence provider. So that's the fusion of really two fundamental disciplines. It's about assurance in the telecommunications space, and it's also around the capture and actionable use of data or intelligence for customer service and marketing applications. And I think this, if I could just give you a very simple sense, mobility, as you know, is really driving our industry very significantly. And customers today, smartphone users, people that use laptops with air cards or PDAs, are pulling down today at a pretty voracious level voice, video, and data content. Operators use our products to help solve quality of service issues for subscribers when they call into the network.
So there's no question that the consumer and the enterprise user as well is consuming data at a tremendous rate. It's a better buffet these days. And as the devices come to market that we're seeing even here that are being launched at this particular show, as more and more of these devices come to market, there's going to be some, you can see the issues that are going to begin to arise with legacy equipment that still exists within the ecosystem because it's difficult with CapEx spending still suppressed, that and the ability to continue to re-architecture legacy equipment to be utilized within the network, but the problems are going to be there. How do they solve them?
Well, I think what you'll find in many operators are really being forced or driven to improve the speed of their networks. At the end of the day, the consumers are driving the transformation because end customers want more mobile device, more smartphones, and more things that are data hungry. They want to be able to do more at a mobility level, move around and have the convenience to not only move independently, but to continue to pull down and use more voice, video, and data applications. So what we see operators driving to is the need to improve the speed of their networks, and that's really what's driving this transformation from what we've seen is 2.5G as a legacy technology to 3G and now 4G or LTE. And one of the things that we see as a real significant trend at this show is we're starting to now see the price points of some next generation 4G or LTE phones at $100 levels. So we're starting to see and believe that the emerging markets are going to be able to take a big uptake as the smartphones become more affordable for people all over the planet. It's going to continue to have more users want to pull down and use more content, and it's going to continue to drive the network operators to put down the new LTE networks, which are twofold. One is more cost effective in the long run to handle big broadband capacities, but they'll also be able to be the next generation foundation for continued volumetric growth over time.
There is also the ability, I shouldn't say ability, but a flavor of this show again is there's a lot of edge activity. There's a lot of new edge products that are coming to market at a faster pace. I had great conversations with Andy Germano from the Small Cell Forum. We talked about, it's easily seeing, 11+ million new units being shipped, this upcoming year.
That's exactly right. So what we see from, call it the assurance side, working with our operator customers around quality, is 60 to 70% of the challenges that they deal with today are really around the access domain. So as people become more mobile, they're in their cars or they're driving or using their laptops at Starbucks, whatever it may be, and they're moving around, the challenges with mobility and with movement continue to be a very significant challenge for the operators. It wasn't 4 or 5 years ago, it wasn't so long, 4 or 5 years ago, that the majority of the challenges were in the core of the network. Now they're moving and evolving out to the edge, to your point, as more devices become low cost or more cost effective or data hungry. And then we're also seeing technologies emerge like small cell, which is how do we begin to take mobility and move it over to fixed networks to deal with all the volume and the spectrum challenges that they're facing.
And then be able to track these issues. So let's talk about some of what those issues are and how they're handled currently by telcos or providers, and how your solutions help that.
So our particular products and solutions help from really what I would say are 4 dimensions. Our products help the carriers look in real time and capture the subscriber experience. So we'll actually be able to look and determine who is the actual subscriber on the network. How is their voice, video, and data quality, and we also can identify in real time the type of device they're using, a smartphone, a tablet, or a PDA. The other thing that's been very critical in the last couple of years in terms of a transition is operators need to understand the services that that user is using while on the network, because there's oftentimes a number of challenges around service types. So for example, a service could be a voice service. It could be Skype as an over-the-top service, or it could be a variety of different downloadable or OTT services that they're using, and they need to be able to understand what the subscriber's doing, where they're having service problems, and then where in the network by technology type, 3G network, 4G network, or to the last conversation we were having, where are they in the network? Are they in the core network or the access network? So seeing these 4 dimensions is a real critical, important approach that operators have begun to embrace in terms of how do they manage the complexity of all this subscriber growth.
Okay, let's now talk and switch to a little bit of the ARPU, because that's always the bottom line number that everybody is looking at. How do I get to a better ARPU? And to do that, I gotta, I'd rather have a software solution than a personnel issue.
Yeah, I think what operators are dealing with today is really, as we see it working with them, the challenges around ARPU are twofold. How do I drive cost out, and how do I take OpEx and CapEx approaches that let me to be more efficient? So what we're seeing and why many operators are moving to LTE is it's a less costly network infrastructure to deploy. It's what we call a flatter architecture. There's less pieces in there, and it's going to give them greater bandwidth and growth kind of characteristics. So on one hand, the CapEx and OpEx, when they make that technology turn, is very attractive. But once they have customers on the network, the other areas around save money are really around how efficient and effective the subscriber experience is on that network. The best way for them to manage ARPU is also really 2 ways. Make sure they don't lose people and have people leak out of the bucket and churn. So subscriber experience around quality, understanding that service usage, and making sure that that time while they're on their network is a quality experience is very tantamount for them. And then crossing the chasm and having data and intelligence from that subscriber time on the network so they can then do upsell marketing is another element. So where we've really positioned not only our company but our solutions to add value is helping our operators not only work with them on troubleshooting and help them with the subscriber experience, but use the data that's collected so we can look by subscriber what their utilization is, and now operators can thoughtfully go to subscribers and offer upsell programs or packages that allow them to get, call it, better use of the network, and the operators can monetize more upsell.
Where are you seeing these solutions being deployed from a geographic sense?
So we've been very fortunate as a company. We're at a market leader level. We've got about 250 of our operator customers deployed globally. If I answered your question with respect to LTE, we've seen the LTE adoption first happen in the U.S. So a lot of the LTE customers that we have are people like an AT&T or a Verizon in the U.S., large tier ones. But we've also seen in Europe now, where last half of last year and now accelerating in 2013, a lot of our other marquee customers like the Vodafone organization, Telefonica, Orange, and T-Mobile are also rolling out, and they use our technology. Asia, interestingly enough, is also really picking up pace now, as well as licenses have begun to take activity. And we're very active in markets such as Australia with Telstra and Optus, also in Singapore with Singtel and M1, a number of areas like that, as well as India.
I would assume that this is a good assumption, because in Europe there's a little bit more services offered by the providers when it comes to IPTVs, when it comes to video on the go for multiple devices. A little bit, I think it trumps a little bit more than it does in the U.S. Currently, that may change, and that would sound like there would be multiple problems that would exist given the current infrastructure that, within, let's say, countries who haven't necessarily caught up with the rest of the European Union yet. They've got good money to be able to get the infrastructure in, but it's not in the rural areas. Although the broadband initiatives from the European Union are going to be funding that, it's still not deployed.
That's correct. And what we see now really at a macro level around video is continuing to be one of the largest growth catalysts, or call it usage types, across the operators' networks for subscribers and their services. And we're seeing things, as you would expect, FaceTime, conversational video, point-to-point video, and then streaming video, people downloading from Flicks or different movie services onto their device, whether it's a smartphone or a tablet, etc. It's presenting a very significant challenge for the operator customers. In Europe in particular, I think we're going to see a very interesting dynamic, because as video adoption continues to try to will continue to take hold, the 3G technologies are going to really be put under a lot of pressure to be able to try to support that, and the tariffs that are currently in place are really not going to support it. I think we're going to see early adopters in some of the markets, some of the competitive movement. People will make a decision to go LT earlier to try to grab some of those subscribers, and I think that'll create the foot race for the other operators in the market to keep pace, so they don't have subscribers churn from their network over to the LTE network.
So that brings back the point to the U.S., where it's more of a duopoly. There's not as many choices for the subscriber to be able to just jump ship. The services that are offered by each one of the top tier carriers in the U.S. are basically the same, although from an AT&T perspective, and you brought it up before, you can't FaceTime over the network. You have to be on a Wi-Fi connection to be able to do it, strictly because they're concerned about the congestion, and that makes sense. And that brings back to the point about where your services are being offered.
That's correct. And what we see really with the operators dealing with is there's actually another technology type that they're also utilizing, which is a concept of Wi-Fi offload. So Wi-Fi offload is a great mechanism for them to offload certain types of traffic at certain places. Exactly right. And that gives them the opportunity to be more efficient and smarter about how they manage what type of traffic, voice traffic or video traffic, et cetera, for their customers.
The signaling works out for them, but they still have to have the open architecture to be able to view it.
That's correct. That's exactly right. So that's where essentially our assurance standpoint helps them see really the criticality of those 4 dimensions that I mentioned across those different technology types.
What are you doing here at Mobile World Congress?
Well, so here at the Mobile World Congress, we're doing really a couple key things. We talked quite a bit about new applications that we're launching. Last year we talked about LTE and the market leadership position that we've taken and the infrastructure. This year we're actually talking about a number of new applications that we're launching to add value. So specifically, we've launched some new applications that serve the customer care organization. We've announced some new capability in our middleware and mediation layer that support data enablement for marketing type applications. So both of those save money, make money type scenarios I talked about. We've announced some new technology for helping to monitor and manage this Wi-Fi offload activity I was talking about. And last year we had a lot of interesting challenges with early adopters on LTE around over-the-top services and signaling storms that were going on that brought down a number of LTE networks around the world. What's happened over the last year is Diameter has been a new technology and a new approach to help manage that problem. At this show, we've also announced a Diameter monitoring solution that will enable our operator customers to watch their Diameter network and those new nodes so they can help manage the health of the Diameter signaling that goes on in their network.
So I'm a big fan of Diameter. I were just having a conversation prior to you and I jumping on camera about, I think it was just 3 years ago I was moderating a Tecktronix panel, right, and Diameter was just into the forefront replacing SS7, and the glossy eyes in the audience were like, oh, well, that seems pretty out there, right, But clearly, that's not the case, because with the onset of IPv6 and the chitter-chatter that goes on between applications and the network is ridiculous. And the consumer doesn't necessarily, they're not aware of how many applications are actually running in the background on their device.
Al, that's exactly right. And what's the dynamic that the carrier has and that they face as a challenge is the smartphone and these Apple stores and all these different OTT services that are offered. Consumers don't necessarily know or actually care about how chatty they are or how efficient or inefficient they are. They enjoy the user experience. Many of these applications are very problematic for carriers, and from a signaling standpoint, we've seen on some of the OTT applications where there's a 20 to 30% increase in signaling traffic associated with that, and those were the things that actually brought the networks down, because the networks weren't geared for that level of signaling surge or the type of signaling collisions that were happening between different devices in the network. So for us, we kind of harken back to the early days of SS7, when out-of-band signaling was the necessary approach to kind of create some logic and structure in the network. Diameter is really the next generation for signaling architecture to be able to manage, call it, all the conflict around OTT service proliferation. Let's
talk a little bit about the report that you've just issued.
Yep. So we're pretty excited about kind of the position and the maturity of our company. We just released a 2013 report that we refer to as the TIP report, which is really about how we define the technology intelligence provider landscape. So in this report, we talk really about the criticality of the 4 dimensions that we've discussed earlier about assurance, and how important it is for a carrier in a broadband environment to be able to do real-time management of the subscriber, service, technology, and network domain. But the other, I believe, one of the most critical, important areas is taking the data from that and being able to turn it into actionable intelligence. So another element we talk about in the TIP report is the use of data and the thoughtful use as it relates to analytics towards particular users and workflows. One of the things that we have really a firm kind of just basic principle about is there's a lot of data flowing through the networks. There's a lot of discussion about big data and analytics. For us, it's really the thoughtful application of data related to workflows. And for us, it's about serving engineering, operations, radio access, customer care, and marketing organizations with real-time information, with the most high-tech use of databases and analytics and visualization. And today, that's really what a world-class leader needs to do from an assurance and a data intelligence perspective.
Well, it's a great way of increasing ARPU.
Exactly right.
Yeah. What are we going to see finally from what are we going to see from Tecktronix in the next 12 months?
Well, I think we're going to continue to focus on our growth in the areas of serving building our portfolio out and serving our customers around LTE. We're going to continue to serve and build out our portfolio of value with professional services around customer care and the marketing domains, as well as building a partner ecosystem that leverage this. And then I think there's a lot of very interesting and transformational technology activities that are going on in the market today around SON and other evolutionary things as well. So we're continuing to always press the bar from our innovation standpoint on how to serve our customers on kind of those next generation needs that they may have around assurance.
Well, as long as all those people in those halls over there, the application developers and the device manufacturers, continue to come out with new and improved ways of consuming data, you're well positioned in the marketplace.
Oh, thank you. We think so as well. You know, the good news is carriers can do 2 things that they are really counted on. One is quality, and the other one's security. We play a really critical role, and we always see there will be a need to always help our carrier customers deal with quality. Other parts of our portfolio help them with security as well. So thank you very much for your time.
Well, from your mouth to the carrier's customer retention ears, I hope it helps. I hope it stays that way. Thanks for taking the opportunity to speak with us here today at Mobile World Congress. Hope we get a chance for an update again in the future.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I've been speaking with Mr. Lyn Cantor from Tecktronix here at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona for 2013. I am Tony Sklar with bnetTV.